Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Monday the 7th of April 2025. In today's episode, South Korea prepares for a snap election, Israel pushes further into Gaza, and Marine Le Pen vows to fight her conviction. But first, global stocks tumble. Global stock markets plunged upon opening today, in the worst week for Wall Street equities since the pandemic. US stocks tumbled when markets opened. The S&P 500 index was down 4.7%, the Dow Jones index was down 4.4%, and the Nasdaq index was down 5%. Asian stocks plunged even more dramatically, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng index down 13% at closing, its worst single-day fall in the 21st century. And Taipei's TAIEX index was also down 9.7% at close, a record low. European stocks also fell after opening on Monday, with the Stoxx Europe 600 index down 5.7%, Germany's DAX down 6.4%, having briefly dropped 10% at opening, and the UK's FTSE 100 also down nearly 6%. It comes after US President Donald Trump announced a spate of aggressive trade tariffs last week to come into force this Wednesday, the 9th of April. It will see the US impose duties of more than 40% on some of its biggest trading partners. Countries across the world are now urgently considering how to respond, with China having already announced retaliatory duties of 34% on American goods. On Thursday and Friday last week, the first 2 days after Trump's tariffs were unveiled, more than $5 trillion were wiped off the US's S&P 500, which analysts at Deutsche Bank have estimated to be the index's fifth worst two-day performance since the Second World War, only rivaled by Black Monday in 1987, the 2008 financial crash, and the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, fears of a global recession are on the rise, with JP Morgan raising the risk of a global recession to 60% following Trump's tariff announcements. The risk to the US economy is also growing, with Goldman Sachs having raised the probability of a US recession from 35% to 45%. Trump's tariffs have also been criticized by US business people. On Sunday, billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, who endorsed Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, called in a long post on X for a 90-day timeout to negotiate fairer deals, adding that Trump's tariffs were massive and disproportionate. He said, "If, on April the 9th, we launch economic nuclear war on every country in the world, business investment will grind to a halt, consumers will close their wallets and pocketbooks, and we will severely damage our reputation with the rest of the world that will take years and potentially decades to rehabilitate." For a more detailed explanation on Trump's tariffs and whether there is any logic to them, you can watch the videos we released on the TLDR Global channel last week. Keep an eye out this week too, as we'll be sure to update you on all the major developments. You're listening to TLDR's daily briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released a video on whether Donald Trump could actually run for a third term. You can find the video linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. We move to South Korea now, where on Friday, the country's constitutional court upheld the impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol and removed him from the presidency, setting the country up for a snap presidential election by early June. Yoon was impeached back in December after he dramatically imposed martial law on South Korea for the first time since the end of military rule decades ago. The Constitutional Court voted unanimously to uphold this impeachment and remove him from office after a record-long period of deliberation. The court said Yoon's, quote, unconstitutional and illegal acts are a betrayal of the people's trust and constitute a serious violation of the law that cannot be tolerated. A new presidential election must be held within 60 days of the ruling, with June the 3rd looking like the tentative date. And now we have a number of updates from Israel and Gaza. The Associated Press reports that the Israeli military has dramatically expanded its footprint in the Gaza Strip, to the point that it now controls more than 50% of the Palestinian territory, pushing its population into a smaller and smaller patch of land. It comes after Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said last week that, through its renewed ground offensive, Israel would seize large areas of territory that, quote, will be added to the security zones of the State of Israel. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whilst en route to Washington, D.C., today vowed a strong response to a barrage of rockets fired by Hamas at Israel on Sunday, the group's heaviest barrage in months. In other related news, the Israeli military has been forced to acknowledge flaws in its initial account of the killing of 15 paramedic and rescue workers in Gaza last month, after video footage contradicted the military's claims. The military initially said it had opened fire on a convoy of vehicles advancing suspiciously and without headlights or emergency signals. However, the video, which was found on the phone of a deceased paramedic who was recovered from a mass grave, shows the convoy of aid vehicles with clear markings and with emergency lights. The UN and Palestinian Red Crescent Society have demanded an independent inquiry, while the Israeli military said, "What we understand currently is the person who gave the initial account is mistaken. We're trying to understand why." French far-right leader Marine Le Pen rallied supporters in Paris on Sunday and denounced her conviction for embezzlement and ban on standing for election as a witch hunt. Echoing the likes of US President Donald Trump, Le Pen, who was previously a frontrunner for the 2027 presidential election, claimed the verdict was, quote, "not a judicial decision, but a political decision." Le Pen vowed to fight on, and was handed something of a lifeline when the Paris Appeals Court said it would deliver a verdict on her appeal by next summer, providing a timeline that, if her conviction is overturned, could enable her to run for president in 2027. Counter-rallies were held elsewhere in Paris on the same day. At one left-wing rally, Green Party leader Marine Tondelier said Le Pen's defense amounted to a total conspiracy theory and was an attack on judicial independence, adding that Le Pen wants tough justice, zero tolerance, and jail for the first offence for everyone else, but not for herself. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, if you want to support the show, then consider grabbing a copy of our physical magazine, Too Long. The next edition, coming out this month, covers the world's 25 most influential people, as ranked by us, the TLDR team, and you, the TLDR audience. Inside, we unpack who these influential people are, explain how they got their influence, and tell stories about how they choose to wield this immense power. The entire thing is beautifully designed, contains a bunch of other stories, and runs over 72 pages of our best journalism. If you're interested, you can use the code TLDR Daily at the checkout to get £2 off your copy, which brings the cost of a subscription down as low as £5.99. Buying Too Long helps to fund all of our journalism, so make sure you do check it out. You can find the link in the podcast description. This is a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Georgina Findlay and Rory Taylor, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.